Okay, welcome to economics. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we look at in economics and why economics is an awesome subject to study. I think economics is really, really interesting, and particularly at the moment when we've got so much going on around the world and so many different changes are happening and so many different policies are being implemented by governments, and there's huge changes in the economy to individuals, businesses, and understanding economics is really, really important to understand how to navigate the current world, but also to understand why individuals, businesses, and governments are doing the things that they're currently doing. Okay, so what is economics about? So economics is about, as I said, why individuals, businesses, and governments act the way that they do. It's about this idea called scarcity. So we all know that we have limited time, we've got limited resources, we've got limited things that we're able to use to satisfy our needs and wants. We can't have everything, we can't do everything. So we need to make decisions, we need to make choices in order to decide what is going to be the best action or the best choice to make in order to maximize benefits. So in economics, we look at how do individuals, businesses, and governments make choices, and what are the impacts of those choices? And it gives us a framework for analysing the different choices that we make and how we can potentially get the best outcomes. So one of our key focuses for economics is on markets. And markets, we sort of already probably know a little bit about, fruit and veg market, or the share market. But there's markets for everything. Anything that's bought and sold, there's a market for. So all the goods and services, there's a market for money, stocks, land and houses and property. And there's a market for labour, so people providing their labour to employers, receiving a wage. So we look at how markets operate and what influences changes in those markets. So for example, why do the price of things go up? Or why is property in Sydney, for example, so expensive now compared to what it used to be 20 years ago? Or why are people's wages not increasing at the moment? What's influencing the market supply and demand to mean that people's wages are not rising very quickly? So we look at all different types of markets and we look at how they operate and why they operate in certain ways. Then we look at the economy. So we start with markets and then we expand it to the entire global economy, and we say, what's going on in the world, right? Why are some countries doing really well? What is it about their economy that means they're economically very successful? And why are some countries economically not as successful? What is it about it? What are the features? What are the policies? What are the businesses doing and governments? What are they doing to make that country very wealthy? Or what are they doing to mean that some countries aren't as wealthy? And then we also look at how do goods and services and people and money move around the world? Where do they go? Where do a lot of our products come from? Where do a lot of the things that we produce in Australia go to? And why do they move like that? Why do we get a lot of manufactured goods from certain parts of the world? And why do we get a lot of services from other parts of the world? So that's looking at the global economy. And then we look at the impact on Australia. And we know at the moment that you would have learned through geography and in other subjects that we're a very interconnected world. And the pandemic is really highlighting that as it moves around the world very quickly. And we're also feeling the effects locally of having essentially movement of people shut down globally. So we look at events that are happening overseas, and there's a lot, not just the pandemic. If we go back a couple of years, the trade war between China and the US. Go back a few more years, you've got a crisis, economic crisis in Europe. Go back a couple more years, you've got a massive global financial crisis that started in the US. So in the last 10 years, lots of things that have happened. And we look at those and how they've impacted Australia and people living in Australia. And then throughout, we're also constantly looking at governments and what governments are doing, because the decisions that governments make have a big impact on you, your family, what you potentially will do in the future, how much money you have to spend, but it also has an impact on communities and businesses, and how successful an economy is. So we look at why do governments make certain decisions, and we also look at the impacts of those decisions. So who are the winners and who are the losers out of the different governments. What are students saying about studying economics? I asked some year 11s who are nearly through their first year of studying economics. What do they like about it? Or what are they learning through studying this subject? And these are the things that they said. These are some quotes from them. It helps me understand what motivates people to run the country and business and why they do certain things. Gives me a broader understanding of society we live in and the challenges we face. And there's lots of challenges that we have at the moment. And there's lots of unknowns. And so for individuals, for all different types of businesses and for governments, they're trying to deal with these challenges we've never faced before. So economics helps us make those decisions and choices. Some of them said gives you a better understanding of what politicians do and why, and you will learn about policies and how they affect you. And there's, you hear and see politicians all the time, and you might understand a little bit of what they're saying, but this gives you a really good understanding of what they're doing and what they're talking about and why they're doing it. You learn about the financial world, the stock market, financial crises. People always talk about financial stuff, but don't really understand how it works. And yeah, you get a really good understanding of that through studying economics. You understand what's in the news, what your parents are talking about. And I had a quick look at the last 5 days of the front covers of the newspaper from the last 5 days. And pretty much in every day, there's at least one story on the economy. So things about the lockdown and the impacts on businesses, why some suburbs are richer and poorer, changes in different people's wages, and then where future jobs might come from. What type of industries are jobs going to be in the future? So, if you're watching the news or you're hearing the news or you're reading, then you're going to be able to understand a significant amount of it as a result of studying economics. Look at issues relating to how to satisfy our wants with limited resources and learn problem-solving skills that you can use in lots of different parts of your life. So you learn a way of thinking, you learn a way of approaching challenges, and you learn a way of coming up with solutions and choices to those challenges. So there's lots of different benefits of studying economics, and this is not from me, this is from students that are currently studying economics. Okay, so finally, let's have just a quick look at what the course entails. So in year 11, we've got 6 topics. Start with a broad introduction, look at 2 key groups in the economy, consumers and businesses, and why they act in certain ways, what influences their choices. Then we look at markets, as I said before, what are the things that influence supply and demand. Then we go into a couple of key markets, financial markets like share markets, and then we look at labour markets, so about employment and labour, and what are the things that are influencing businesses hiring and people offering their labour. And then we also look at government and the role of government. Then in year 12, we've got 4 topics. We start big with the global economy. What's happening? In 18 months, who knows? It's an unknown. So I'm sure things will come up, things will change. It's a time of rapid change. So there's going to be lots of different things going on in the global economy that we'll look at. And then we bring that back to Australia and say, how does Australia fit in? What influence is Australia having? And then how is the global economy influencing Australia? Then we look at specifically some key issues, and this is where you'll see lots of stuff coming up in the news about these issues: unemployment, economic growth, inflation, the environment and environmental management, and inequality in income and wealth. So we look at some key issues that affect us all and what causes them and what are the effects. And then tied into that, we look at government. What's government doing to make sure that these issues are not a problem and that generally people are well off and have a high quality of life. So that's the course. There's a huge amount in there. I think it's a really, really interesting course. It's challenging. There's lots of complex concepts that we look at, but we break them down and we look at how they relate to what's going on in the world, and it gives you a really, really strong understanding of what people, businesses, and governments are doing and why they're doing it. So if you have any other questions, you can come and see anyone in social science, and we're happy to answer your questions about economics, and hopefully we will see you next year in economics. Thanks.